Highlands and Islands Climate Hub is an organisation that's about 2 years old, and we support community groups with climate action projects across the Highlands, Orkney and Shetland. So that's the Highland Council region, and then Orkney and Shetland on top of that. So we've got about 300 members across the area, and we support groups in a variety of means, but we're really trying to provide support, encourage collaboration, supply education and training, celebrate all the amazing things that community groups are doing, sustainability wise and climate wise, building capacity, giving a voice to communities, and supporting with funding. Just a bit of news. So we currently have our Climate Action Fund, which is open to our members. So we're giving £500 to climate action projects, sort of new projects or new initiatives, new groups, really to just kind of kickstart sort of exciting new things. So this is happening on a rolling basis. So every month we'll kind of just sort of assess the applications that are coming in and hopefully provide funding to some really wonderful projects. So if you've got any questions about that, just get in touch or check out our website, and Katie will be popping some links in the chat. We also have some food hygiene training that's open at the moment. So if you're doing anything food related, community garden related, and you think that would be handy, we can provide that for free. So please get in touch about that as well, because we've got a few things to give out, places to give out for that. So we'd be more than happy to help. And the Highlands and Islands Climate Festival is coming up. So this is happening from the 1st to the 30th of September. And it's basically a series of events all across the Highlands and Islands that community groups put on to celebrate all the amazing things that they're doing. And so we've had sort of picnics with local food, we've had work party sessions, we've had climate ceilidhs, we've had all sorts of like amazing different things. I think last year there were well over 100 events across the month, and so we're really looking forward to a really vibrant festival this year. So you can register your event online now, or if you have any questions about things, again, just get in touch. We also have another Skillshare coming up next month, which will be about sustainable event planning. So if you're hosting events and you're keen to do it sustainably, then that will be the place to go. It's on the 22nd of July, and you can just reserve your spot for free on Eventbrite. So we'll just put all these links in the chat, and so please feel free to peruse at your leisure when the session's over. We are a membership organisation, so we support all different kinds of members across the Highlands. So community woodlands, community gardens, refill shops, repair cafes, kind of the whole gamut of anything sustainability related is right up our street. And membership gives you access to our peer learning and training opportunities, our events, our funding, to sort of act as a collective voice to the Scottish Government, and our resources, and just that sort of networking, really valuable community that we've got building. So if you're not a member and you would like to be, please just head to the website. It's free, takes about 5 minutes to do, and means you kind of get on the mailing list and you kind of get involved. So that's really exciting, and it's really exciting to see the membership grow at the moment, and see all the momentum that there is behind climate action in the Highlands. So that's just some contact details. I've popped Katie's contact details in because I guess kind of sadly I'm leaving my role at the hub at the end of next month, and I'm moving on to another role within the third sector in the Highlands. So I'll still be about, just in a slightly different capacity. So if you've got any questions, just feel free to get in touch with Katie. So I'll just stop sharing my screen now, and I'll pass over to Andy, who will introduce us to the Community Woodlands Association and his very exciting PowerPoint. Oh, you're on mute, Andy.
Professional? No. Thank you very much for the opportunity to invite Alice to be here. It's great to talk about the Community Woodlands Association. I am just going to share my screen when I will start off by talking a little bit about Community Woodlands Association, CWA, what we do nationally, because we're a national organisation, and then what some of our member groups get up to. And then I'll be followed by Garance, who is a representative of a member group, who will talk a bit more about detail of what they get up to in Dunnet. So I'll just share my screen. Processing. Okay, so Community Woodlands Association. I have the privilege of being the director of the organisation. I've been in post about 20 months, so I still have a lot to learn about our membership groups. It's quite a challenge learning about well over 100 member groups we have, spread right across the country. A little bit about CWA. We were established in 2003, and we grew out of a set of community woodland groups that wanted a national representation, national organisation of training and advocacy, a voice really at the national stage. So those groups, including Dunnet, were one of our founder members. And what we do is we support our members to achieve their aspirations. We're representative and supportive and facilitating. We are not governing. So we don't want, don't intend to ever tell our members what they should be doing in their woodland. We're helping people manage their own community woodlands. And that's really quite important to us. And occasionally we find ourselves treading a fine line, but mostly we're on the facilitative side of that. We offer direct support. We do that face to face, although geographically that can be challenging. Email, phone, and these days virtual. We offer training, networking, we provide information. There's a whole suite of information notes on our website for community groups. Excuse me. There's a whole suite of information notes on our website for community groups, from the very how do you start? How do you get yourself together? How do you organize yourself to become a community woodland group? How to go through the community asset transfer is one of the notes, I think. And recently we added something on working with volunteers in community woodlands. We offer mentoring, so we have a scheme where we have professional foresters, retired or working, who have agreed to be paired up with a community woodland group and provide technical forestry support on a voluntary basis. And we offer a small number of exchanges. We have an annual conference, have been doing that for 20 plus years. This year in Inverness, 4th and 5th of October. Our website will be, a web address will be on the last slide, I think. So information will go up there shortly. We do some consultancy. We offer a whole range of pro bono, free of cost advice and support. Every so often we also bid, and sometimes we even win contracts for consultancy. So that's one of our income streams. We do a bit of policy and research. We respond to consultations, and we organise and collaborate with other projects. The Native Woodlands project was a project where, working with 4 of our member groups, we articulated and promoted the benefits of communities of being involved in managing specifically native woodlands, and the outputs of that. There's some videos and report are on our website if anybody's interested. ASR is the Alliance to Saving Scotland's Rainforest, and there's a project just starting on that which we're involved in, which will be really good for CWA and, more importantly, for the communities and the rainforest. We do all that with our normal staff complement is 1.9 full-time equivalents, less than 2 full-time staff. That's 4 people, all part-time. Occasionally we've had short-term contracts in the past, and we may well do in the future. We're pretty busy. You'd expect that, and that's a good thing. So a little bit about community woodlands in Scotland generically, and this is looking across the country. Surprisingly enough, not every community woodland in Scotland is a member of the Community Woodlands Association. So our best guess is that there are somewhere around, and I suspect slightly over, 200 community groups owning and or managing woodlands across Scotland. About 140 of those are members of CWA. So the majority are members of CWA. We wouldn't want to force anybody to join, and we certainly don't have any golden handcuffs to hold them to join. So occasionally members leave, and that's fine. It's quite a good movement. It's been going along on a long time as a movement. First community woodland it's in the Borders, I believe, 1987. Still a member currently. By our best guess, and I say best guess because it can be quite difficult to get information out of community groups, CWA member groups own and manage around 40,000 hectares. That says land and woodland, because when a bit of land comes up for sale, it's not necessarily all woodland. So, for example, the island of Egg, which is owned by the community, the island of Egg is a member of CWA. It's not all wooded. So we have community groups as members who are managing salt marsh, sand dunes, all sorts of habitats. There is a massive diversity amongst our membership. Types of woodlands, the types of communities, urban, rural, northern, southern, their objectives and the activities they get up to. The only common thread, perhaps, is that community woodland groups manage their woods to benefit their community. And importantly, that's benefit their community in ways that they decide and decide for themselves. We're really supportive and really signed up to the idea of empowering communities to do things for themselves. Here's our distribution across the north of Scotland. This is a slightly dated map, so there may be some changes to that, but we're spread right across. There's Dunnet right up in the north, and we're spread right across. This is changing all the time as members come on. Communities are taking over land and woodland and joining CWA, and also as, regrettably, people decide to leave. That's fine. So there's this map is on our website. If anybody's curious about looking that up, each of those dots is a little link which will give you information on those sites and take you through to websites or Facebook pages, depending on what information we've got of the members. Community woodland groups and the woodlands. Formerly, the woodlands itself or the land is formally public or private, could come from either. We've got no data on the proportion in terms of how many members have acquired their land from the public sector and how many have got it from the private sector. Some of it's in ownership, some of it's leased. There's management agreements, there's partnerships, there's collaboration agreements. There's a variety from formal lease through to funny handshakes, I think, in some cases. And I could see the benefits of that on both sides. There's an informality there and an opportunity to get involved in management of a bit of land without any legal commitment, without any taking on any liability. Having said which, we wouldn't recommend it. The governance model is generally non-profit distributing bodies with a geographically defined membership who elect a voluntary board. One of our conditions of membership is that it's a democratically controlled organization. That doesn't say if it's a company, a community interest company, a charity. All of the above can be members of CWA. All of the above are effective ways of managing land, effective governance models for managing land. Again, that is determined by the community. Larger and busier groups tend to employ staff, but most are run entirely by volunteers. Most of our memberships have no staff. Our membership is divided up into 3 categories of size based on turnover, and turnover of thresholds are less than £1,000 turnover a year is the small groups, 1,000 to 10,000 medium sized, more than 10,000 large. Most of our members are in the small to medium category. Most of those have no staff, so entirely voluntary. We do have some larger groups. That we have a group that has 14 staff. That's not 14 full-time jobs, but they've gone from having a woodland and they now, for example, run a campsite, and they have, because Highland Council is withdrawing from provision of services, they've recently built 2 toilet blocks. So they're managing the toilet blocks as communities are doing in some places. So that group has said to us, the community woodland was the catalyst, if you like, for community activity. They coalesced around the woodland, and then they've gone on to do much more over the period of some years. What are the benefits of having a community woodland? Physical and mental health is often listed. This is a list that comes from our members. Physical and mental health, environment, biodiversity, and climate. I will say to you that climate has come along in recent years. If you went back 20 years ago, that wouldn't necessarily have been on the list of benefits that people were talking about. It is now. Opportunities for volunteering. There's lots of opportunities for volunteering around community woodland groups. Everything from being on a board, governance, getting involved in that sort of detail. If you're interested in spreadsheets and numbers, crunching the budgets, through to handling the tools and managing the woodlands itself. There's education and skills projects that go on all the time. They are used as a venue for community events. Increasingly tourism. There's more and more community woodlands in rural areas, perhaps especially in the Highlands, that are developing parking areas for camper vans, because as we know in the Highlands, there's a shortage of those. Community cohesion and confidence is a bit of an intangible benefit, but I see it regularly in the groups I deal with that go from being quite tentative and quite nervous about getting involved in community land management, and then some years later, like the one I just mentioned, they are involved in all sorts of aspects of managing toilet blocks, campsites in their community. Quite a change. Economic. I've put that in brackets. It's not usually a driver. It's not usually the reason that people get involved in managing community land, community woodland. Any of the above bullet points could be the reason that community groups want to get involved in managing the woodland. Economics isn't usually the purpose. It's not really what makes them get together and say, oh, we'll get this woodland. They're not looking to make money. They're looking to deliver other things to the community. Economics become a consideration, because as soon as you've got the woodland, you might need, for example, insurance. You might need or want to put some signage up. You might need or want to have a car park or a fence or all sorts of things. And then the question becomes, how do you pay for those things? What sort of activities do community woodlands do? Well, I've put these into 3 categories. There's a social category where community woodland groups are doing all of those things and more under the social category. There is an environmental category. Community woodland groups are doing all of those things and more. And then there is an economic category. Once economics become a question, communities have been very creative around ways of generating an income. Those are all activities on the ground. One of the other ways that community woodland groups generate income, of course, is through some sort of fundraising, grants, donations, legacies. But these are all activities that are taking place in woodlands. Now that's all nice and interesting and pretty dry. I'm going to move on to some pictures of woodlands. I need to apologise to this audience. When I joined CWA about 20 months ago, we had very few slides in our collection. So some of these are ripped off websites, and if you recognize them, I apologize. What are community woodlands around? What are they about? Well, fundamentally, they're about connection between people and woodland. That's what it's about. It's some sort of degree of attachment to the woodland. It might come about from dog walking. It might come about from just living close to the woodland. It might come about from just enjoying the woodland. Other community groups get involved in their woodland simply because they see it as a way of delivering good, and I mean good in the widest possible sense, for their own community. It's a long journey from going for a walk in a woodland with friends, perhaps just your partner, to becoming part of a group and taking over the management of the woodland. It's quite a long journey, but it's massively rewarding. Here's a volunteering group at Rockall, who are doing some tree planting. There's opportunities to get involved in woodland management. Arcade has also developed a tree nursery, as have many of our members have got tree nurseries. That seems to be a function that's coming much more popular these days. Signage. I said signage might be a cost. You're much more likely to see a sign like this in a community woodland than in a publicly managed forest, where they've got a budget to do paid consultants and advisors to professionally design. I really like this approach. It's great, isn't it? If you see a sign like that, chances are you're in a community woodland. Not exclusively. There's a real opportunity for communities to come together. This is the community at Arcade shortly after they had acquired their bit of ground, and as they were going into an arrangement with Woodland Trust around the management agreement they've got, which allows them influence on a much wider piece of ground. That's a long way from walking your dog in the woodland. Massive degree of celebration. This is Culduffel in Inverness, when the community there took over a piece of woodland that was vacant through a long, tortuous legal process, and a big community celebration that they'd actually acquired some management rights over a piece of ground that's in their area. And then communities have the ability to do all sorts of interesting things in woodlands. This is in Dunnet Forest. I learnt about an hour ago that this is about a 12-year-old picture. This is a xylophone. You're not going to see too many xylophones in woodlands, and that's something really creative that communities do. Maybe I'll pose a question for Garance to answer when she's talking, perhaps. What goes on with the xylophone? What happens around that? I'd be really quite interested. I guess people play music. We have community theatre that takes place in community woodlands. This is in Kilmonaghan Woodlands, which is in Argyll, where the community actually leases the woodland from Forest and Land Scotland. That's the way they have acquired management rights. This is the same community theatre taking place. Looks like a nice place to be. Must have been a breeze. There's no midges around, eh? A foraging event in woodlands. Again, this is on the west coast. I think that's that might be Glennon Community Woodland further south. And then as communities acquire the woodland and they come to manage it, they need to do some sort of forestry operations. There's an example of the costs. Could well be a volunteer, could also be a contractor, but somebody's paying for a chainsaw and the protective equipment. So that's one of the ways that economics become a consideration for community groups. I believe this is part of a firewood production in a community woodland. Here's another example on a bit of a bigger scale of firewood production. This is Knoydart, where the timber there is used very locally, very circular economy, doesn't go off the peninsula, a lot of it. That's a bit of accident of geography, and that affects their economics. But the peninsula, I think, produces a lot of its own firewood, as well as planting lots of new trees. Beyond firewood, communities are using a variety of sawmilling machinery, just a chainsaw mounted on a jig here, to produce timber for building. And then going back to Noida, there's a larger kind of mill operation there where they are milling timber, and they are fortunate to have their own kiln for drying it. And then they are doing things like this with their own timber in their own buildings, in their own villages. And there's a fantastic circular economy there. The village hall on Noida is floored with woods out of the floored with wood out of the woods at the back of the village, and the pub that was recently bought by the community was refurbished using local wood as well. Here's one of the drivers for communities to get involved with Woodlands, doing something for the future for their children. So Abriacan outside of Inverness now has adults fully engaged in the management committee of the woodland that were in that picture. So they have grown up in their community woodlands and are now engaged in the governance of their community woodlands, regenerating the connection between people and the woodland. I am just going to show you my contact information and the link to our website and our socials there. Those are the socials we use. Mostly, I think we tend to be on Facebook, but we are there if anybody wants to track us down. Through the website, you can sign up to newsletters and bulletins. No requirement to be a member to receive those. Most of our funding comes from the public purse, so our information is publicly available, and you're welcome to join. And you are welcome to join. Actually, you don't need, as an individual, you don't need to be a woodland group. You could join, but you're welcome also to sign up to newsletters and bulletins. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen just now. Bit of a quick run through, folks, but I'm very happy to answer any questions if you have now, if that's your intent, Alice, or are we moving straight on?
Yeah, if anyone has any questions for Andy, just go ahead, or otherwise we'll just pass over to Garance and then take some questions at the end. So if anyone's got any burning questions now for Andy, please feel free to ask. That's feeling like no burning questions. So yes, do think of some, and there'll be a bit of time for discussion at the end. So yeah, if you've got any questions at all, just have a think whilst Garance is talking. So yeah, pass over to Garance now. Garance, you don't have slides. That's correct, isn't it? So yeah, we'll just here. It'd be lovely to see a face and not have to read anything. And yeah, you can tell us all about what's going on at Dunnet. So thank you so much for coming.
Oh, good evening, everyone, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you for setting me up wonderfully there, Andy. That is absolutely perfect. I have to say that without the CWA, Dunnet Forest wouldn't actually be in existence. So I highly, highly recommend the CWA because they're a fantastic resource. And I think one of the things that they do really, really well is they put you in touch with other people. So it's a huge community of people across the country, because if you don't know the answer, somebody out there will. And that when you face problems or things that you just don't know about, somebody's going to know, and it's great. But I'll introduce you to Dunnet. We're 105.6 hectares of forest on the very top of Scotland. So we just sit across the road from Dunnet Bay, and it's a beautiful location. The history of it is the forest, well, the land was compulsory purchase back in the 1950s, and I think it was planted up as a crop, and obviously I wasn't around then, but sort of briefly, the crop was planted. We sit on very, very sandy soil. We're on the links behind the dunes up here, so we don't have ideal forest or woodland conditions really, because we are so sandy. But the land was purchased and it was planted up as a crop, and apparently that didn't work, so they planted it again. Apparently that didn't work, so they planted it again, and then they kind of went, oh. But so the problem that they found with our forest is that the trees don't grow fast enough, tall enough, or straight enough to be a commercial crop. So back in the 70s, I think the community, from what I've heard, the community actually just started coming in and using that forest for its, you know, the scouts came in and they were den building and doing these kind of things. And then towards the end of the 1990s, Community Woodlands Association and people started to really get involved with the forest. And in the early 2000s, Dunnet Forestry Trust was set up. And this was with huge support from organisations, because it's a massive undertaking, as Kim knows now. It's a huge undertaking, and there's so much to be done. But there was initially there was the management agreement, and so the forest was managed by Dunnet Forestry Trust, and that's moved. What, we're now 2024, so we've moved sort of quickly moving through sort of the ownership of the forest. In 2019, the trust decided that they were going to do a community consultation, which was massive. And this again is before my time. And in 2021, they did the community buyout. So it's been a long-term project for the trust, but the step between being a managed forest and a community forest has been massive, because it opens up all kinds of doors. It opens up the use of the land. It opens up, I think it enables the community to go, actually, that is ours. That is ours. We're going to get involved, and I think that is a really important thing. Once you take that step and all the hard work that you've put in, people really do embrace being a community forest up here, because the place is so loved. The forest itself, 105.6 hectares, sits on a triple SI. So this goes for us, and it also goes against us in some ways, because everything we do has to be planned. So when the CWA got involved, we run on long-term. We run on a 20-year long-term forestry plan, because we were going from a crop which was pretty much a monocrop of Sitka spruce, Corsican pine, and lodgepole pines, which are your crop trees. And so it was taken. The plan had to be made to take it from this monocrop and turn it into to biodiversify it, so that it's more of a native woodland, because obviously in Caithness we don't really have many native woodlands. So it's about looking around at the environment and you know, the trees that would grow up here, and it's taking the forest from this monocrop into something that is much more natural and will develop and will regenerate more naturally as time goes on. We are very lucky in the sense that we have a lot of rare species as well. So we've got things like the Primula scotica, we've got the small blue butterfly, and we have kidney vetch, which is the only plant that the small blue live off. So for us, part of a lot of what we do is education for this, and also providing an environment for these species to thrive in. Sorry, I've lost my track a bit there, but it's so these species need to sort of like thrive, and the forest is there to do that. And that's, you know, sort of working with lots of different groups that can support us to do that, you know, with information and with support with funding and support with how to deal with environmental issues and what we need to do. So there's lots and lots of information out there from different groups, you know, plant life, species on the edge, there's butterfly conservation. All of these groups can feed into what you do in your own forest, because they've got the scientific knowledge. So if you come across anything in your forest and go, I don't really know what to do with that, get hold of one of these, you know, get hold of another group, or go to the CW and say, who can I talk to? And they'll go and talk to them. And that works. So We've gone through our first 20-year long-term forestry plan. We're now on to our second long-term forestry plan. We get assessed every 5 years by Nature Scott. They come along and they have a look around and they see what we're doing and they say, yep, that's great. Have you thought of this? Or, oh, stop doing that. We've not had to stop doing that yet, which is really good. And they help keep us on track with the professional knowledge that we need to make sure we're doing the right thing. Because as you can imagine, going from a crop to a native forest, we have a lot of trees which are now old and they're now too big for the soil that they sit in. So we have a lot of problems with things like wind throw. The wind gets in, trees come down, and for us that creates a problem. But it also creates our income. So we have we're very, it's actually quite a basic wood fuel industry. So we have a woodshed and we have a wonderful part-time forester, Paul, who has been with us for 13 years, who started as a volunteer. So he came in volunteering, shifting brash around, got interested in chainsaws, went out with the chainsaw crew, and now he's got so many qualifications. Oh, he's so well qualified now. And whenever somebody comes along to the forest and they want to really know about our forest, I go and spend half a day with Paul, because it's the way he moves, the way he thinks, he's almost part of it. I swear sometimes he has to go home and wash the green off, but he's just brilliant. And it's through having so Paul is our main forester and he's in there, and so he's taking out the wood which needs to come out anyway for the biodiversification, but it does supply us. We have a monthly log sale, so that's every first Saturday of every month we have a log sale, and the wood is just sold locally. I know that people have told us that our prices are too cheap, but we're not in the game of competing with companies and businesses. You know, we're there, you know, this is a community woodland, so the wood that is being bought from us is being bought by the community. So therefore our prices are lower than if you were going to a company or a business, because we're not making money. Every penny that we make gets ploughed back into the forest. We're a charity, so we're non-for-profit, so everything gets turned back into the forest. And we find that people come along and they buy our wood and they're there every month. Every month they come and buy our wood, they stock up for the winter, and you know, and builds relationships within the community as well. Having that once a month sale means that we get to know our community even more. It's great. It's wonderful. Now I've got a wee bit about the community buyout here and the whole process around that. If anybody out there did want more information on that, you'd be very welcome to email one of our directors, Shona, who saw that process through, and her email is info@dunitforest.org. I'll pop that into the chat when I'm not talking, because I can't, I'm very rubbish typing and chatting at the same time. And so if you do have any questions or you'd like to know more, drop her a line and she'll be able to help out. But even better, come and give us a visit, have a cup of tea, have a biscuit, and we'll have a chat. And that's probably the easiest way, so you can actually see what's going on, and I'll herd the directors together so you can have a chat with them. Going to move on to volunteering, because the one thing that has gone through our forest from start to now is our volunteers. We have an amazing bunch of volunteers, and some of them have been there from the beginning. The average age of our volunteers is 70. We just had one of our volunteers who's 80 last year, and he did his chainsaw course, which is, you know, there we go, health and fitness. What more could you want? That is what community woodlands do. They keep you mobile and they keep you interested. And there's only Paul, part-time forester, and myself, part-time engagement officer. And these are the only two staff we have. Everything else in our forest is done by volunteers, and it's felling, wood processing, forest maintenance, laying paths, everything. It's our volunteers, and that's our community as well. So it's our volunteers come from our community, and so I think there's a wonderful sort of circular nature about the forest, because it gives so much, and then people just give back to us, and it's incredible. Our volunteers also come out and help with school groups, which is what I do, and all kinds of different groups that come into the forest. I had a school out today, and a lot of our volunteers came along and used their skills in identification and plants and all these kind of things to engage with the younger ones. They were only tots, they were up to P4, and it was just a great day. Another one of the things that I'm looking at in volunteering, and I think that's where having a paid member of staff really does help, is that I can kind of get in and about things like this green prescribing. So working with local practitioners who are doing things like green prescribing, because volunteers are really, I don't know if anyone else finds this, but volunteers are really scarce on the ground at the moment, just because I think because of the whole economic situation with our country, and people don't have the time that they used to have. But there are people out there who want to volunteer but may not necessarily know how, where, or when to volunteer. And I'm finding that working with the green prescribing, so with the local health centres and the community mental health team, I'm able to introduce people to the forest, which I think makes a big difference. You know, there's a point of contact, they come down and we can, you know, almost like, I suppose, sort of like support people to become volunteers. Which for us is working it's working really well, actually. It's really nice to see that somebody's a bit shy, and then, you know, a few weeks later they're there sort of going out and digging ditches and getting really involved and enjoying the environment that they're in. So yeah, volunteering is absolutely massive up here, and I'm really lucky, and in fact I think I'm actually probably the envy of the county, because every time I go to a Caithness Voluntary Groups meeting, the first question they ask is, how many young people have you got volunteering now? There's something about the woodland up here that young people just want to come and get involved. I've got a Sunday group of volunteers. It's an open volunteering group. It's not a youth volunteering group. It's open to anybody. But I have on the books, I have 8 teenagers from 13 to 17. Weekly, I probably have 4 or 5 turning up every single week. And as John was saying, they are the future. It's incredible to see them come in. I have to admit, sometimes they come in and they go, oh, let's get out there, let's do some digging. Other weeks they come in and they just want to lean on their spades, which is quite amusing. But it has lowered our volunteering age down a bit, and it's great to work with them, and it's great to see young people get in and about the forest and see their views and their ideas of what the forest could be, because, you know, I do hope, and I keep telling them, you're the directors of the future, so come on, what do you want here? What do you want to get in place for the future? And through having these young people, I've been, last summer we did a summer school, and we did the John Muir Award and the Junior Rangers Award. And every young person that volunteers for me, I urge them to sign up for the Saltire Awards. So they're actually getting things back. So they're actually getting things by volunteering for us. They're getting things on their CV. They're getting experiences in leadership, in you know, working in a challenging environment, critical thinking, all these different kinds of things. They're getting benefit, and that's then feeding into their CVs and into their schooling and education. And a couple of them are actually going, yeah, an environmental career is what I want. So it's really lovely, because they don't necessarily they don't do the thing on the curriculum within a school that they come out and do in the forest. So they're seeing that there's ways to employment, there's different routes to employment and training and university, other than just purely academic subjects. But they're wonderful. The one thing I will say about teenagers, having teenagers as volunteers, quality biscuits. Quality biscuits. They don't like the cheap ones. Keep the quality biscuits stacked high and you'll be fine. You'll be absolutely fine. Events in Dunnet Forest. One thing I can say, it's really, really challenging to try and do events, because if you're purely volunteer or like me, part-time, events can take a vast quantity of time to plan, prepare, and deliver. And as volunteers, that's a huge time commitment. And what I found is working in partnership with other groups. So we recently, just a matter of months ago, worked in partnership with Life Art, who are another fantastic organisation up here. They wanted to do a forest event. I wanted them to do it, and they did a 2-3 day forest event where they came in, set up tents, set up lights. And so my role in that was just really to make that possible for them to come in and do it. And so working in partnership is somebody else is taking the strain of the organising, the advertising and things like that, and I'm there to support them to deliver what they want. Also groups like things like Cycle UK Highland, they've got fantastic people who work for them who want to get out and about. So I give George, our local guy, a ring. Do you want to come and do something? And he goes, yeah. And he'll turn up with a whole heap of electric bikes and a lot of differently. He's got he has wonderful bikes that mean people with different abilities can actually get side-by-side tandems, things like this, where you can actually take people out into the forest, people who can't necessarily walk long distances, or due to multiple health reasons can't get out. They can come out, and with the support of George, it means that we've got vehicles to be able to take them around the forest to open up that green space for them. So partnership working. And the Highlands and Islands Community Hub, their climate hub, sorry, not community hub, climate hub, again another great contact because of the work that they do around the environment. They've supported us with funding, they've supported us with staff time to enable me to build projects and the funding to deliver projects. So it's always about trying to find, don't sit there on your own thinking, oh, how am I going to do this? Reach out to all these different groups and professional organizations that can help you, because it means that you can give more and deliver more, I suppose. I think I'm just about at the end of my list there, you'd be pleased to know. But if anybody would like sort of like any further information on what I do, you can also contact me. I'm dev@dunwich.org. We do have a new website, which is Dunwich Community Forest, and all our contact details are on there. But if there's anything you want to know, do get in touch for a chat. And if you're ever up in the area, just drop me. I'm in the area. Come over and have a cup of tea and a biscuit. I promise it'll be a quality biscuit. And just come and see what we do and get involved. And yeah, any information, just give us a shout. Hope that's okay. That's a quick overview.
That is perfect. That is wonderful. And you know what? I will be taking up your offer of quality biscuits. Absolutely. It might even encourage me up your way, Garance. Absolutely. That's amazing. So yeah, I'm wondering if anyone has any questions to kick us off. Or I'm sure. Oh, Claire. Do you wanna go ahead?
Yeah. Hi, that was lovely. Thank you so much. It was great to hear from you both. I was just wondering, community woodlands seem to be on the increase. Is it becoming easier for communities to obtain woodland, or is it not easier? It's just there's more communities wanting to obtain woodland. And is it maybe, if it's not easy, is it becoming harder? And if it is, what are the barriers? I'm just wondering whether there's any correlation. Obviously, more communities just want to, for various reasons, recreationally and environmentally, want to benefit from the land that they have nearby. I wonder just the landscape in terms of like regulations and hoops to jump through and stuff, whether it's becoming easier for communities, like if it's heading in the direction where it's easier or it's harder, or whether it really is dependent on that particular patch, and whether there's other complications involved. I'm sure it's kind of very individual, but sorry, that was a long-winded question, but yeah.
Thanks so much, Claire. Andy, I feel like that one's just got your name on it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, good question. I think it's never been easy. It's not like walking down the shop and buying a packet of quality biscuits to acquire your woodland. It's always been quite a long-winded process. There's always been processes involved, administration burdens and so on. And those processes, to some extent, have changed, and there's still a requirement there. And the argument for the community asset transfer scheme being quite convoluted, for example, the argument you'll hear from certain quarters is that it's a public asset. How does the public agency know that the asset is being disposed of to a fit and proper, responsible community? If they can't complete a business plan, they can't do a grant application, they're probably not the right person to manage the woodland, is the way the argument goes. So those processes are, from that perspective, kind of a due diligence, essentially, before an asset goes across to a non-public sector agency. The complication is in the race, and I think it is a race, for people to investment houses to invest in tree planting to sell carbon credits, which has resulted in land prices going up quite considerably. So it's more difficult for communities to acquire the money to acquire the woodland. So that's a complication. More communities are wanting to do it, but the processes aren't getting easier, and the competition for land through that mechanism is becoming more. That's coupled with a squeeze in the public sector finances. The Scottish Land Fund, which has funded purchases of woodland for communities, has had its budget cut quite considerably this year. Tie that in with land prices going up, there's less money available to acquire land for communities. So that all assumes a purchase. For a community to lease a woodland depends a lot on the people or agency or private individual that's willing to lease it. So Forest and Land Scotland, for example, state forestry agency that own the woodland, the ability to lease seems to vary across the country according to the local management. You might have a political agenda to empower communities to access the land, but the implementation of that varies across the country. That's a long-winded answer to your question.
It's a long-winded question. It's yeah, a whole thing in it, a whole evening in itself, I'm sure. But
yeah, it's a complicated picture, and that's the thing. I try to look at across our member groups, see their diversity, and go, that's a strength. And I think it is resilience in that strength, of course. But it also means there's no one answer to questions like that.
thanks.
I saw Garen. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say that's all very, very relatable, and it's yeah, and we have a Community Empowerment Act, which is meant to help enable these sort of things. But like you say, Andy, there's a big difference between that being written into policy and then how that actually gets played out in real time, and all the other kind of barriers that sit in the way of folk. But yeah, the Community Woodlands Association obviously I would say would be a help within some of those like early stage processes, as to with the like third sector interfaces and things like that. So that there are community development staff. I mean, the Highlands and Islands Climate Hub as well on the ground to help. But yeah, that only goes some way to getting through those really tricky early stages too. Yeah, I'm not sure, Garance, if you've got any thoughts either.
Well, all I can say that it's worth the energy, time, blood, sweat and tears that gets put into it, because I'm really lucky. I see the benefits of a community forest and what a community forest can do. I think there's a greater need now more than ever for these spaces which are owned by the community for the benefit of the community. And when we're talking about community, it's quite a huge area. Like for us up at Dunnet, it's not just Dunnet, Castletown, and where we are. Your community is, and that comes from the sort of like the land asset trust and things like that. You have a geographic community, and ours is actually quite huge because it goes off over to Thurso, down towards Wick. So our community is a big proportion of this corner of Caithness. And I think there's just more need for this, but it is worth it. It is absolutely worth everything that you put into it.
Yeah, and if I can follow on from that, there's a big government agenda for community wealth building. I would say to you that community woodland groups have been doing that for decades. And it's becoming more and more important, and the need for it has been recognised. The mechanisms to make it relatively easily achievable for communities are maybe not there yet.
Absolutely. Katie, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do actually. So this is interesting, taking off my climate hub hat and putting on my community trust hat. So I'm on the committee of my local community trust, Dunvegan Community Trust in Skye. And we've just finished a consultation on the purchase of some woodland at the Orbost estate. And we're really interested in combining this with our other problem, which is housing. Well, affordable housing, but also housing full stop. And there's been a lot of talk about establishing some woodland crofts. And I was wondering if there's been much of a success rate in that, in the community woodland world, and if there's any particular woodlands or anyone you would point me to talk about woodland crafts.
I sense that's coming my way again. Yeah, okay. There's another long-winded process. Woodland crofts, taking a bit of land and turning it into a croft is a long-winded process. The process is established, it's there. It's long and it's lengthy and it's complicated, and it involves conversations with planning authorities to build the houses, architects, costs, all of those sorts of things. There's a couple of Glengarry Community Woodland is the one that springs to mind. They were in national media recently. They're quite a long way towards building, I think it's creating 6 crofts with associated houses. They're also, I believe, building some simply building some affordable homes on their ground. I say simply building affordable homes on their ground. That's not a short process either. Kilfinnan, some way down the woodland croft process, but that has become quite tortuous for them. So that's again demonstrating it's not easy. There is a woodland croft project you'll find through the CWA website. It's on our website. And the person who can probably best advise you is the officer of that, Jamie McIntyre, who has been acting as a consultant for Glengarry, is involved in the community group on Strontian on Ardnamurchan that has built their own school. They've actually just acquired some woodland for themselves, and I wouldn't be surprised if at some point down the line they're into woodland crofts. But talking with Jamie would be the way to go. And I can put you in touch, Katie, if you drop me an email.
Oh, brilliant. I will do. Thank you.
Cool.
Fab. Are there any other questions as we currently stand? Jack, would you like to go?
I'm trying to work out how to switch my mic on. Yes, thanks. Very mundane question for Garance, actually. You said you're selling logs every month. You've given me ideas. How do you sort of wrap them up? Or I mean, do they come in just a pile and people help themselves? Or are you bagging them? Or how are you handling it?
We've got a number of ways. We sell, so you can come along and you can buy 2 meter lengths. Well, you can still buy 2 meter lengths, 1 meter lengths. We do rings and splits. So we've got 4 different formats. We sell the splits in, they're big bags. So we sell the splits. That's all seasoned wood. So everything we split is seasoned for at least 18 months to 2 years. Rings, you can either, we sell them in 2 formats as well, either seasoned, ready for splitting, or we sell them green as well. So people, we've got quite a lot of customers who come along and buy this year for next year's use. So they season and process their own wood. And it's the same with the 1 meter lengths and the 2 meter lengths. They get sold green because people are taking them away, storing them and processing themselves. So they do come in a little bit cheaper. We also sell wood chip because we have vast quantities of wood chip because we're felling, we're clearing areas. So we end up with a lot of wood chip, and that goes quite well. But what we sell to everybody is that our wood is it's untreated, and we don't do kilns because we're completely off grid where we are. So for us, we can't kiln dry. We have to season in the open air, which does take a lot of time. So yeah, lots of different ways of selling it, really. And you can turn up with a trailer. People often turn up 3 times in a day with a trailer, and they'll load up. It depends on how regularly they buy. So we've got bags. People come in cars, trailers, flatbeds, the whole lot for wood. And you can also order wood from us as well. So if there was something that you particularly wanted, like you particularly wanted 3 or 4 meters lengths, then we can also provide them, but that will always be green wood. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. That's brilliant. And I presume, therefore, you've got more or less the same people that come month after month.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we've got a pretty regular client base, and then there's 1 or 2 people who who are buying for their own processing. Is that they come along and once a year they buy a vast quantity of wood and take that away for their own processing and their own use, which is great.
Hopefully I'll get that going down here fairly soon. Thanks.
Brilliant. If you have a look on our website, Dunnet Community Forest, you'll see a list of our prices. And if you would like any sort of like more in-depth information on that from our forest manager, then do email info@dunnetforest.org, and then you'll be able to, they'll help you out with that one.
That's super. Thanks very much.
Lovely. Any other questions?
I don't have any questions as such, just because, we're like 4.5 years in now, but I do feel like frighteningly we're still very much at the beginning of this. But it was just to say thank you to everybody tonight, because it's been really helpful for me, and I think I'm going to probably be in touch with everybody at some point as we move forward with our woodland. And not just that, but like I'm up in Caithness to visit family quite a lot, so I might come in. Might come in past Dunnet if you're about.
Please do. It'd be lovely to meet you, and it'd be lovely to show you, and also to show you, just sort of come to somewhere where you can see, where you can experience what I was saying about every single bit of sweat. It's worth it. And maybe just to give you that boost to keep going, because it is what you are doing is incredible. And
I mean, it's quite strange to think. I mean, at the end of the day, we are looking at planting something. So, like I was saying I finally managed to get hold of the head of communities for Highland Silence Enterprise the other day. I used to work for them, didn't even cross my mind to get in touch with them until they saw the notice in the paper to say that our cat transfer had been approved. And having spoken to him about a few bits and pieces, I keep saying to people that it's going to be at its best when we're dead. But actually there's additional bits and pieces that we can probably do alongside that kind of give you that boost as well, and that it's not just about the woodland, but it's the additional bits around it that we can do as well that you know, to keep people engaged and to keep the community involved in it in some way while it grows and while it becomes what we hope it will be eventually. So yeah, it's good. Thank you.
You are planting for your grandchildren.
Yeah. Well, not mine, because I don't have any kids, because I've just got cats. But other people's and my nephews, and you know, it's going to be amazing. But we're, you know, like I say, we do have a few other bits and pieces planned, like allotments, and we've got potentially a meadow and a community orchard and all that kind of stuff around it. But it's been a slog. But I kind of feel like we're getting to a point now where things might actually start happening, and that's the best part.
Well, do you know what? Sorry, Andy. I'm just going to suggest that you go to the Community Woodlands Association conference in October, because you will meet a lot of people who have been where you are in different places, and it's that I find going to the conference and meeting other people that do this and have done this and are working towards that is such a boost.
Yeah. Well, it's wild. I mean, just to throw it in there as well. I mean, we've been doing this project to try and get the asset transfer and get woodland planted, etc. I won't bore you with the details of that. But in amongst all this, we came across the fact that in the title deeds of the houses around here, there's actually a shelter belt between the housing estate and the fields. It turns out we already own that. And there's like trees there, and there's a burn going through it, and there's ash dieback. So we've actually ended up doing a community ash dieback project. Bats, I've got bat boxes through there. I don't know how I'm going to hang them up. Whole thing's been slightly crazy. So yeah, we just stumble across things as we go. So I've already put it on my calendar for October that I'm going to come along and just say, anybody else help?
If I can say something maybe to support Jack and Katie and Kim. Maybe Jack and Katie, there are information notes on our website about wood fuel and woodland crofting. Kim, we from time to time, I mentioned we organise exchanges. We've got one, I believe, kind of on the back burner, kind of coming off the back burner, I think, to Dunnet. Is that right, Gareth? Yeah, I think so. We're kind of bringing it off the back burner. We've got an access for funding for that, so that would be a expenses paid trip to go and visit Garance and eat her biscuits.
I'd be absolutely up for that.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of biscuit funding.
Yeah. It'll be on the CWA website and in our newsletter and bulletins in due course. As I say, you don't need to be a member to sign up to the bulletins, but you probably would need to be. Your group would probably need to be a member to take part in the exchange.
Well, that's it. I'm joining various, but I mean, we've only just joined SCBO and stuff as well, just to kind of get up and running. And I'm just signing this up for everything that would be helpful. So this has been fabulous. So yeah, you'll be definitely getting me signing up. I mean, in addition, the other thing that is kind of floating around the back of my mind is the succession side of it as well, because I'm pushing this at the moment. And our constitution quite clearly says that the chair needs to step down after 3 years, and then, you know, after a year can get re-elected, etc. I've been doing this now for the last 4.5 years, and I'm kind of looking around going, anybody? And there's a lot of interested people in helping out, less so when it comes to doing the stuff that I'm doing. So getting people engaged with everything now and getting them out to see other groups and seeing what we can achieve with this, I think would help kind of maybe push a few people over the line to helping out a bit more, I think.
Yeah, one of the things we see across the country is that groups go through kind of stages of activity. They kind of really active, really enthusiastic, then something happens, member of staff changes, funding ends, activity goes down, and then after a period it sometimes comes back up again. And we're hoping to run a session at conference about re-energizing community woodland groups, which is also actually just the same as energizing. So we'll be running a session at conference on that, which we'll be in. We'll look forward to seeing you there.
Yes, definitely. I'll be there.
Cool. Good.
Yeah, I feel like I've started with this also, because taking my hub hat off, I'm also on the board of a community woodland, of Anagach Woods Trust in Grant Spey in the Cairngorms. So it's a sort of Caledonian pine woodland, 320 hectares, and it's very, very lovely. And we are in that re-energization process, I would say, currently. We're coming back from that slump. So it's very, very exciting to see things open up. You know, we're getting regular volunteer days. We're getting 3 a month now. We're getting funding come in. We're just redoing our forest plan. So the next kind of 10 years, we're kind of looking forward to that at the moment. The board is very full and very energetic. We've revitalized our social media. We're turning up to all sorts of shows and events with stalls locally to just sort of say, we're here, join us as members. I think our membership's doubled in the last few months because no one was keeping on top of it before that. So it's very exciting to see all these kind of pieces come together. And yeah, just to start see stuff happening. It's really very exciting. So but yeah, things definitely do move like that. Yeah, so yeah, I probably, if no one else got any questions, I mean, absolutely, I'll try and get an email around with everyone's contacts on, with Garance, Katie, Andy, and so on. So you've got everyone's details. But I'll also just say, so from this, we're just hoping to build a page on our website with a lot of links to obviously the resources Andy's mentioning with the CWA, and also with some case studies of our members. It's been so valuable, Garance, to hear from you today, and all the amazing things, from the fact that it is biscuits that encourage the youth to 80-year-old chainsaw qualified. Oh my gosh, that's just mind blowing. But these are the important things. And just, yeah, how you got where you got, what the challenges have been, what those like key things are. You know, we've heard a lot about collaboration tonight, and about like working in partnership and having those kind of networks and having these opportunities to come together. So really kind of getting that down somewhere on our website, and obviously the CWA is full of that as well. So we'll be looking to pull some case studies together of community woodlands at all different stages who are members of the hub, and also the kind of different ways the hub has supported community woodlands. Obviously we can support with funding, and obviously, like Garance said as well, staff time, and with that kind of networking and relationship building too. So we're all very much kind of working towards that similar outcome of yeah, empowering communities to do these things in the way that works for them. There's nothing prescriptive about it at all, but making these connections is what helps us get to the kind of thriving futures that we would all want. So I hope it's been an inspiring evening tonight, and I hope you all do stay in touch with us and with each other. I certainly feel kind of topped up, and definitely actually more inspired to come up to Dunnet and see Garance, and to yeah, get out into my woodland too. So yeah, if you've got any lingering questions, do shoot them our way, but otherwise, yeah, do take care of yourselves, and have lovely evenings.
Thank you so much. I've had a lovely evening. See you
Yeah,
again.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Massive
Thank you all.
to Andy and